What's going on, beautiful people? Joshua Tree back with another video. And before we get into today's video, I just want to do a shout out to the Happy New Year for people who celebrate the new year. The spring equinox was definitely last Friday, and I definitely resonate more with the natural cycles of life, let's just say. So I just want to do a quick shout out to that. And in this particular video, it's a special request from a subscriber, my friend. She sent me a question: can I do a video on contentment? This is a great question and a great topic. So thank you, Mila, for sending this request. I would love to share as much as I can on this topic, and hopefully it helps you and anyone else that listens to this video. And so you guys know, like I like to do it. I really like to get straight to it. So let's get into this video. So like I said, today we'll be talking about contentment. So um based off the request, and just I think in general, a lot of us do have challenges with being content in different areas of our lives, right? So let's first of all, let's just define what is contentment. Okay. And contentment is a state of inner peace and satisfaction of what one has. All right. Rather than seeking for more and more and more, you're content of what you have. Now, some of the struggles that we may have that keeps us from not, staying content is we have to understand our societal pressures and comparisons that feeds into our lack of content, right? The natural human desire to improve ourselves, the hedonic treadmill, and also, of course, unresolved emotional wounds. All these things that I just previously named is several one of the reasons, if not all the reasons, of why we struggle with being content in our lives. So I'm going to go through each one of these and kind of break them down so we have more of an understanding. And also, last but not least, we have to understand the ego. All right, because the ego loves to thrive and lack. Therefore, not being content is kind of synonymous to that. Because if you're always in a space of lack, then you will never feel content, right? You would never feel satisfied. So let's just get into it, all right? So start with the first example, which is the societal pressures and comparison. So we have to understand that society does a great job, right, of pushing the message forward to always try to seek more through social media, advertisement, friends and family. The culture itself is always thriving for the next iPhones, always thriving for the next cars, always thriving for the next diet, the next trend. And so societal pressures makes us subconsciously want to always seek for more. Okay. So that's something that we struggle with, is the societal programming, the societal engineering, the social engineering that we have experienced as human beings is deeply embedded in our subconscious to always um, thrive for more, in a sense, due to everything that goes on in this today's world. Another struggle is human nature itself. Biologically, we are designed to evolve. Biologically, we are designed to want more, to improve ourselves. And so, if that's the case, then you can also find yourself not wanting to, I don't want to say settle, but be satisfied with what you have, because we have a natural state to always want to improve. Even when we don't, even when we are not, let's say, intentionally trying to improve ourselves, we're changing to some capacity. So what I find in this particular case with this particular struggle is that it can become misguided or it become misdirected. And what I mean by that is that, say for instance, you have, say, achieved the things that you want, let's say personal development wise. Say you have achieved a great body, right? You'll notice once you achieve this great amazing body, then you're trying to think to yourself, okay, well, let me make my abs a little bit more defined, or let me start adding more shoulders, or let me start adding a different chest. This is where this energy becomes misguided and misdirected, because now it's like this constant improvement, improvement, and improvement. And so then the question would be is, when does it stop? When do you say to yourself, okay, my body is good where it's at? All I have to do is maintain at this point. All right. So that's another question you can ask yourself. Where is that drive coming from? Is it coming from validation? Right? Is it coming from societal's validation? Like, where is that drive coming from? Right? So the next thing I want to talk about is the hedonic treadmill. What is the hedonic treadmill? The hedonic treadmill is a temporary increase in happiness after a positive experience, and then we return back to baseline. So, what does that mean? This is what this looks like. So, say for instance, you get a new iPhone, right? You're excited about it. You got the new camera, you got the new apps, you got the new text messaging, you have, different features that your previous phone didn't have. And so this creates a lot of excitement, this creates a lot of joy, it creates a lot of happiness. Over a period of time, those little traces of happiness is going to go right back down to your baseline emotion. It's the same thing with a car. If you get a brand new car, you got the leather seats, you got the sunroof, you got the new paint job, you got the new rims. You're you're excited to drive the car because you have a new car, but over a period of time, you're going to go back to your normal baseline emotion. So you'll notice every time you get something, you go back, you shift back into your normal state. This is happening on a consistent basis. And so this is something that's a human nature. This is something that normally happens. It's based off of our biochemistry, our neurochemistry. Everything inside of the body is always adapting. Okay. So even when we reach a new high, the body's going to adapt and it's going to go back to a baseline point to make it normal again. Because we're never going to live so much in the high, and we're not going to really live so much in the low. It's always going to find a baseline, and that's where we always reside at. And we have these experiences where we experience highs and lows on a consistent basis, especially if we believe or attach to these particular high and low emotions. Okay. And another struggle that prevents us from staying content or satisfied is our unresolved or childhood wounds, our childhood trauma. Okay. So we need to understand that if we experience any form of abandonment, any emotional neglect, any type of rejection, non acceptance as a child, what that does is it creates a void, and that void is looking to be fulfilled. And so now when we get older and we've been so socially conditioned through society to search for happiness and joy outside of ourselves, we attach it to material objects and material possessions and people and places and things. And we think that these things are going to satisfy this void. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. And this is how we get into what we call the ego. So this all trickles down. This is what we call the ego, because the ego itself is a compilation of everything I just previously named. I just previously stated. The ego is conditioned, is created, is a mental construct that has been formulated from our social conditioning, our parents, our friends, our environment, the world, the culture, our trauma, our experiences, our beliefs, our attachments, the thoughts that we have, the narratives. All this is the ego. Okay. And to keep the ego real short without trying to make it too spiritual based, look at the ego like a monster with 1,000 heads. That's the best way you can think about it in a more like metaphorical sense. It has 1,000 heads, and these thousand of heads have been created from everything outside of yourself. So this fictitious entity is always trying to seek for more. It's always trying to seek for validation. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about the ego. So we have to understand that the ego thrives. Okay, thrives off of lack. Okay, it thrives off of comparison and validation. So when you think about being content, replay these characteristics back to yourself. If you say, oh, I want to receive X and Y and Z, I want more of X and Y and Z, ask yourself, do you feel a lack when you're trying to achieve this particular goal or desire? If you say you're trying to achieve whatever, ask yourself, are you looking for validation? Ask yourself, are you comparing yourself to someone else, and that's why you feel you have to go after what you're trying to go after? Okay, so this is gives you more what we call ego awareness, because the ego's always got its foot in something. So the more that you're able to bring awareness to the ego's nature and how it exists in our world of worlds, you'll start to see that it's really your ego that's operating everything that you're trying to achieve in life. The ego itself thrives off of achievements, it thrives off of status, it thrives off of possessions, and it thrives off of how people perceive us. Once again, everything I just shared so far, bring all that to the ego. Ask yourself, are you feeling these feelings? Do you have these thoughts? Are you trying to achieve something because you're trying to obtain a certain status? Are you trying to achieve something because you're trying to show people, like, look what I have, which is validation? Are you trying to achieve something because low key you have compared yourself to someone else on social media and you want that particular lifestyle? And so now you're trying to achieve it when you already have a great lifestyle, right? Or are you just trying to achieve something greater for the sake of achieving something? Because it's just like with humans, we can never stop. We can never stay content, right? And that's the whole point of this video. We can never stay satisfied, right? And so once we understand the nature of the ego, once we understand that we have been programmed to seek more, then you start to break down the tree and get down to the root. And the root of discontentment stems from our childhood experiences. Because you, like I said earlier, you have a void that you're trying to fill. Subconsciously, we've been programmed to believe that to fill ourselves up or to gain fulfillment, it has to come from outside of ourselves just to fill this void. But think about it. When you was a child, you was already happy. You was already joyous. You didn't have all these things that we have access to as an adult. All we had was our toys, our video games, baby dolls, action figures. These things satisfied us. And then if our mothers or dad or fathers or caregivers took, confiscated these particular objects from us, we still was joyous. It got to a point where we got up in age and we started to identify with the toy that made us happy, and then we started to cry because we didn't have that particular toy. But prior to, if your parents was taking the toys away from you, the child might whimper for a little while, or let's say when you was a child, you might have whimpered for a little while, but then you went back to your joy. Because we lived in imagination. We didn't need toys to be happy. We was able just to play with our hands and do this in the shadows. Remember you used to do this back in the day? Look, let me see if I can do it. Look, remember this? You see my little you see the little shadow in the back? I used to do this all the time. I used to make little animals out of the shadows. I used to do all kind of shit. And that used to bring me joy. So when we think about this being discontent, when we thinking about achieving something, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing it because it's going to bring us this joy? Or we're doing it because we're trying to fill a void? Or we're doing it to try to prove ourselves? Like, you have to ask yourself the question, what is your drive behind your achievement? What is your drive behind your goal? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't reach the top of the mountain. But what I am saying is, when you get to the top of the mountain, are you satisfied because you're at the top, or are you thinking to yourself, okay, what's the next highest mountain that I can climb? Right? So, what are some things that we can do to help what are some things that we can do to help satisfy this urge, to help satisfy this void, to help feed the ego some medicine? because the ego is very unhealthy. It needs medicine to start to become into a balanced state. Okay. So one of the things that we can do, one of the things that we can practice is stop comparing ourselves to other people. Like I said, the ego is rooted in comparison. Every time you're comparing yourself to someone on social media, you're in your ego. Every time you're on social media, naturally you're comparing yourself to other people's lives. So I definitely highly recommend to always take a break from social media because it's constantly dripping your energy and your emotions. So there's a term called upward social comparison and downward social comparison. What this means is when you get on social media, you're doing one or two things. You're downing yourself when you see someone that you really idolize or you want to be like. So say for instance, you love Beyonce, or say for instance, you love Chance the Rapper or whoever. If you love their lifestyle, you're doing one or two things. You're either being inspired by their lifestyle, which is an upward comparison. You're looking up to them to try to do better for yourself, or you're in a downward comparison where you're downing yourself and you're judging yourself and you're criticizing yourself for not having these particular things. So keep in mind the medicine, right? We're talking about medicine now. The medicine to help out your ego, to help out this discontentment, is to stop comparing yourself and accept where you're at in your life and know what you have is amazing just as much as anybody else, right? Another form of medicine is, of course, acceptance. Accepting where you're at in your journey, accepting what you have and what you don't have. Because that's that's really the drive behind it. We always focus on what we don't have and not what we do have. So if you come more into a place of acceptance of like, nah, I'm good. Like I have everything that I need, not want. That's another big one. The ego thrives off of wants, not needs. It's a lot of wants that we have, but we don't have a lot of. It's a lot of wants, but you'll notice a lot of those wants you don't really need. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us want a new car, but the car we have is doing perfectly fine. A lot of us, right, want some new shoes, but we got damn near about 25 different pair of shoes we don't even wear. So of course, as humans, we overindulge, right? We just hoarders and we overindulge on a lot of things that we don't need. So you always got to ask yourself, do you need this or do you want this? And that would be the question for the ego. Because if you want it, that'll let you know that's the ego that's thriving or wants this particular desire. Okay. So that's two, right? Acceptance. Three is, of course, practicing gratitude. The most powerful practice that you can do in any of this work is practicing gratitude. When you get up in that morning, your morning routine, hopefully, is something that deals with gratitude. Stating out loud or to yourself, or even writing down three things that you're grateful for the day before you even begin your day. Just be grateful, right? Over a period of time, you'll even notice that the energy starts to build up because I've actually done this practice and I still do it, but I've done it. I've done 100-day gratitude challenge. Powerful, powerful. Definitely over a period of time, you'll start to feel the energy build up inside of your body and you'll start to respond to that energy. So every time someone might throw something at you, like, why you don't get this and why you don't get that, you automatically gonna respond and say, I'm grateful. I'm just grateful. It's nothing to explain. You just feel it. It's a feeling you get. It's not lip service. Being grateful is an embodiment of energy that you can feel inside of your body and it speaks. So I would definitely highly recommend that you get into the practice of gratitude if you haven't already. Okay. And it's for everybody who's listening to this video. Another thing that you guys can do is detach from labels and redefine your self worth. Your ego thrives off of labels. So if you call yourself a doctor, you call yourself a lawyer, you call yourself a truck driver, if you label yourself based off of something that society deems very superior, then you will always have this I'm better than everyone. And what that does over a period of time is it keeps you attached in that energy. And so anything that is in that particular energy also influences your self worth. Okay. And so if it influences your self worth, then you're going to always feel like, well, I have to keep achieving this. I have to keep going after this because it feeds your quote unquote self-worth. So say for instance you are a doctor and you say, okay, I gotta go to the next level up from a doctor. I gotta go to 3 years and do whatever other doctors do, or I gotta, learn this particular skill. Like, don't get me wrong, you always want to try to improve and better yourself. But like I said, ask yourself, why are you doing that? Are you doing that because you see other doctors doing this? And so you feel like you got to go achieve it, or you're doing it because they're making more money? Like, it's a thin line. Like, I'm not saying don't achieve more when it can put you in a better circumstances. But what I am saying is question first why you feel you have to do it. Because if you're a doctor, let's just say as an example, and you're making 200K and you got to go do another 4-year program doing something to achieve another 100,000, is it really worth it? I.e., is it really tied to your self-worth? Because for some reason, when we have more, we feel better. We feel like we're more worthy. But it's a great illusion, because if I strip it away from you, if I take it away from you, this object, this possession, this attachment, then all that self-worth goes away. All of that pride, all of that look at me now goes away. And now you feel like nothing. So that lets you know that that is not the real game in this. That's not what you want to try to achieve, the possessions, because that is a false illusion. It doesn't give you ultimate fulfillment. It is a temporary fix that the ego has fixated itself upon, and it's trying to get you to believe that this is important, and so you try to go after it, right? And last but not least, the medicine for the ego is, of course, doing the inner child work. Your inner child is still looking for the fulfillment that he or she did not receive when they were a child. And so your inner child, your inner children, believe that they will receive happiness by achieving material possessions or having a certain status or certain label in society. But this is why when you pay attention to a lot of millionaires and a lot of people who high up in, let's say, the status level, they always say, oh, I have everything I always wanted, but I still feel emptiness inside. That emptiness is that void that they did not fulfill when they was a child. So that part of them plays a major part in their adulthood, and they don't acknowledge it. And so they think by continuously trying to achieve different, uh, um, different things in life, that is going to eventually fill that void, and it never does. I'm pretty sure we all have heard them stories where a lot of millionaires and billionaires say, I've got everything I can possibly imagine, but I still feel empty. It's the inner child in them that feels empty. You have to address your inner child. That is the root of everything right now that we're talking about. That is the source of sources. You know what I'm saying? And of course, got to do my spiel for people who know and people who don't know. I am an inner child coach. I specialize in inner child coaching. Okay. I help people heal their inner child, connect to their inner child, release emotional wounds that is a part of your inner child, and integrate your inner child back into fullness. That is the true work that we're doing on a consistent basis. We're going back to the parts of ourselves, and we are retrieving the part of ourselves that are lost. This is what we call a lost soul. All we're doing is going back to these versions of ourselves, because a lot of them are traumatized, meaning they're frozen in time. And we're retrieving these parts back into wholeness. So if you're interested in that type of work, please reach out to me. My website is www.touchbydjoshuatree.com, TOUCH by joshuatree.com. Or you could just leave me a comment down below, and I'm going to get back to you ASAP. All right. And so, you guys, I think that's the end of my notes for today. And just to recap, be mindful of your ego, because your ego has been created by everything outside of you when you were a child into adulthood. So your ego, like I said, is a fictitious entity that is ruling your every judgment, your every input, your every output, your every action that you take. So you got to ask yourself, are you in your ego, or are you just being, let's just say, in a space of awareness, in a space of understanding that, yeah, I just want to better myself because I have, I want to make more money, but not to the point where you want to, oh, I got to get it and I got to make sure I have it and you better get away because I'm going to grab it. Like, you don't want to get to the point where it just seems like you're never, ever, never, lever, ever, lever. You're never ending. It's just constant go, 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 go. Right. And I will also express that the way you can tell that you're in your ego is whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, you're trying to get for yourself, you're trying to have, pay attention to your body and ask yourself, does it create any type of suffering? And what I mean by that is, say, for instance, that you're trying to get a new car. When you already have a car, you're trying to get a new car. If you're trying to get a new car and you notice that you have a lot of unease, a lot of resistance because you want a car so bad that's actually creating your body is actually tensing up because it wants it so bad. It has like this strong ambition that I gotta have it, that your body's actually stressing behind it. If you were to that point, that's your ego. Because it's okay to have desires in life. That's why I'm placing emphasis on this. I'm not saying don't achieve. What I'm saying is go after the things that you want without having such a strong emotional attachment to it. Because that strong emotional attachment is your ego. For some strange reason, your ego feels like once I achieve X and Y and Z, I'm gonna be more fulfilled. It's like with anything in life, right? If I once I get that ideal relationship, then I'll be complete. Once I get that ideal dream car, then I'll be complete. That's the narrative. A lot of us carry that narrative. And so if we're looking for things outside of ourselves to be complete, that's your ego. So achieve everything that you can possibly achieve in your life, but achieve it from a place of, if I don't receive this, if I don't get this, that's okay because I am fulfilled regardless. I am whole regardless. There's nothing outside of me that can make me feel whole because I'm already whole. If you're looking for everything outside of yourself to make you feel whole, then you're not whole. You're in your ego and you're incomplete. And the ego is going to keep making you feel like you're incomplete. So you got to understand the nature of who we are. We was born whole. We was born complete. But as a child, we had so many experiences that reflected back to us. And our perception at the time when we were children is that we perceived that we was not enough because our parents neglected us, or our parents rejected us, or they didn't give us enough attention. And so that child inside of us looked at it like, you know what? I guess I'm not worthy because they're not giving me no love right now. And so we start to take away a piece of ourselves to where we start to become incomplete. So it's 4 slices of pizza. One part of that pizza got taken away, and now there's only 3 slices left. And now we out here in the world trying to look for our slice of pizza to become complete again. But that slice of pizza is not out there. It's not out there. It's not out there. It's in here. It's an inward journey. It's not an external journey, right? So, all right. Okay. I think I'm done for today, people. About to get off the mic. So, I hope that this video helped. Of course, people, if anybody want to like send me a new video, suggestions, anything that they want me to talk about that is in my realm of thought, I would love to make the video. Hands down. Please send me some suggestions and I will definitely make it happen, Captain. But on that note, I'm going to let y'all go and I'm going to see you on the next video. Peace.